for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Laura, so you've been on the news a lot, even in the Korean side, South Korea. So you wanted to be involved in screening the social media profiles of foreign students who want to study in the United States. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I've made a name for myself, not just through my investigative reporting, but also through my vetting and my very public and viral exposés of what I call the vetting crisis at the White House and how it relates to Biden holdovers or Obama holdovers or people who are historically very hostile to President Trump still having positions within the Trump administration, either because they didn't go detected in the transition team or because they lied throughout the transition process, or whoever was in charge of reviewing their application didn't catch or review all of their extensive past political history and their social media comments about President Trump or their previous social media activity as it relates to criticizing conservative policies or propping up Obama era policies. And so I was watching the news this morning and I saw a little flash come across the screen about how the Trump administration, in addition to revoking the visas of a lot of CCP-tied foreign students and jihadi students, they now want to add social media screening to the application process for foreign students who want to come to our country to study when they apply for their visas. And so given the fact that I've been pretty aggressive when it comes to immigration. When I ran for Congress, I campaigned on an immigration moratorium, and I'm pretty outspoken about the threat of China and the threat of the CCP and my desire to see more of these Islamic students deported from our country because of their anti-Semitic activities on college campuses. I made an innocent post saying, oh, wow, this sounds like a dream job. I would love to help in this vetting process. Sign me up. And of course, the media loves to make everything more dramatic than it is. So
it's a good thing.
My innocent little tweet, I guess, now has turned into a Daily Beast hit piece where they say I'm begging for a job. I was actually just kind of poking fun at the fact that, I'm very tough on immigration and I'm very good at vetting, but the media loves sensational drama.
I mean, at this point, Laura, everybody knows, when the Daily Beast report that, you should take it as a badge of honor because people already know that the mainstream media is spreading lies, disinfo, and misinfo. So you don't need to take offense on that. And I think many people are actually, I have personal friends telling me that you have been on the forefront. They really are rooting for you, all the things that you uncovered. They always just nitpick about comments that you made here and there. Even Trump made comments here and there, and the mainstream media would pick on, those kind of inappropriate comments.
They don't actually, the thing is that they never actually have anything to dispute what I say. They call me names, but you notice they never say I'm wrong, right? They'll never say, oh, she's wrong or she's factually incorrect or, this is actually wrong. They never say that because they actually can't dispute the factuality of my reporting and the things that I'm uncovering. And so they just result to insults and false accusations and smears. But honestly, I don't even care anymore in terms of these ridiculous pieces where they try to take my tweets out of context because it's just, there's so many hit pieces on a daily basis. It's impossible to keep up with all of them. There's so much work to do as it relates to combating and exposing and identifying key figures within the deep state and trying to help President Trump codify his agenda, hold our own Republican majority accountable for their inaction on codifying President Trump's agenda, their inaction on impeaching judges. There's a lot going on there. And, I know you're a Korean journalist. Just this week, I reported on a Korean judge.
Yes,
you had a Korean judge who
just at the nick of time.
President Trump's executive order to shut down the Department of Education on grounds of, abuse of DEI policies, which are now in violation of President Trump's executive order, in addition to their proliferation of the LGBTQ agenda in taxpayer-funded public schools. And so it's interesting because, we can pull up the report and you can show your audience, but it turns out that the Korean judge has a Korean wife who uses pronouns, and she's the principal of a DEI company, and the Korean judge also has a transgender son. So...
Oh, she has a transgender son. I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. So they have a transgender son. His name was Marshall June. And Marshall likes to dress up in little skimpy outfits with fairy wings and pretend that he's a girl. Yes.
This whole thing is just ridiculous. You recently talked about Bill Clinton going to South Korea. You were the first journalist out there. I don't know, you got some tip, you were way ahead. And why do you think Bill Clinton went to South Korea? Is it because of the upcoming presidential election that's going to happen come June 3rd?
Personally, I was very curious about why Bill Clinton was going to South Korea, because generally if the Clinton Foundation has planned travel, they announce it on their website. They have a pretty prominent display on the front page of their website that documents all of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton's travel. And generally when a former president travels abroad, it's for some kind of a event. If it's not for a private vacation, it's some kind of event or speaking engagement. And so I got a tip that Bill Clinton was going to be traveling, and it hadn't been reported anywhere. And so I broke the news. I was able to confirm it. He did, in fact, travel abroad to South Korea with a full Secret Service detail. And it's kind of interesting because the elections are coming up on June 2nd. So that's less than a week away, right?
June
Next
3rd,
week. I believe that's Monday, right? The elections are on Monday in South Korea. And so when you look at Bill Clinton's history from his time as a president and, his involvement, and again, I was just a child when Bill Clinton was president, but if you go back and you examine his record on foreign policy, right, he received a lot of criticism for his policies in Korea and his handling of foreign policy with Korea. And so I just started thinking to myself, well, why would Bill Clinton be going to South Korea
at this time?
And it just made me think to myself, well, perhaps there's, further CCP or Chinese efforts to destabilize the region. We've seen that China has an interest in destabilizing places like Japan, right? We saw the assassination of their leader, and we now see a lot of there have been many reports documenting the CCP funding of civil unrest in South Korea to try to create a communist takeover. And of course, that's why we saw the implementation of martial law briefly in South Korea, which made international headlines. And people thought that it was, a crazy conspiracy theory that the president of the South Korea was trying to prevent a communist takeover. But when you look at the the political makeup and all these different factions, and now these factions are here in the United States of America. I've actually been documenting a lot of the Asian influence inside these protests as it relates to the Palestinian protests, the pro-Gaza protests, and the Tesla takedown protests. Many of the organizers who we've documented who are organizing these anti-Trump violent protests in many instances where they're vandalizing property. They're Asian, right? Some of them are Korean. Some of them are Korean communists. Some of them are Chinese communists. And so it's really interesting. So when President Trump talks about how we need to crack down on foreign influence and foreign students, he's absolutely right. I don't think a lot of people understand how many foreign students are actually the organizers of these very violent and chaotic protests that are happening here in America. And protest is a constitutionally protected right under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. However, supporting terrorist activity, which is what a lot of these people are doing, incitement to violence is not protected speech. And that is why President Trump is now calling for Harvard to... Well, he actually is forcing them. He's not just calling on it. He's forcing them to not enroll any more foreign students. And he's demanding that they turn over their lists of foreign students. And their refusal has resulted in them getting cut off from federal funds and also being, very directly reprimanded by President Trump from the Oval Office.
Yeah, 31% of Harvard students seem to be coming from other foreign nationalities. So I think
and during the swearing-in ceremony today at the Oval Office for Jeanine Pirro, who's now the U.S. Attorney in D.C. Pirro, yes,
love her.
Excuse me, Jeanine Pirro. Jeanine Pirro is going to be doing a fabulous job great woman, somebody who's highly qualified. I've known her for years. She's fantastic, highly intelligent, and I think she's going to be a fantastic U.S. attorney in D.C. They didn't really have any questions for Jeanine Pirro, but they were asking President Trump about his actions against Harvard and his actions against these Ivy League institutions. And he said today from the Oval Office that he would like to see the number capped at 15%. He doesn't think that the number should exceed 15% of foreign students who are admitted by these Ivy League institutions. And personally, I think that 15% is still pretty high. I mean, I don't, there's a lot of American students that would love an opportunity, or at least used to, would love to have, attended one of these Ivy League institutions before they became hotbeds of Marxism and hotbeds for radical Islamic terrorism. But, it's, these universities are essentially businesses in their own accord, where Harvard, for example, has a $52 billion endowment, right? This is a business. This is an enterprise that they have going on. So it's a full-blown foreign enterprise where you have oligarchs and you have, the children of diplomats, and you have the children of foreign leaders, dictators, right? Even Xi Jinping himself, literally his daughter actually attended Harvard, believe it or not. And his daughter had protection from CCP PLA guards who are still protecting her in the Massachusetts area where she lives with her husband. So Harvard loves to talk about how they're, so concerned with fascism and they're anti-Trump, and the actions of President Trump are allegedly fascist, but they have no problem, allowing for the children of communist dictators and African warlords to send their children to these universities where they're getting education, and they increase the price of the tuition because, well, they can afford it. But, that is then funding the enterprise of these corrupt Ivy League institutions. And you've seen in many instances that they've completely renamed some of their science buildings, their libraries, off of foreigners who just write them very large checks for $10 million, $20 million. And, nothing's free, right? There's no such thing as a free donation. Everything comes with, some conditions, whether it's putting the donor's name on the building or, having lenient policies towards certain activities on campuses, including Marxist, communist, pro-jihadi activities.
I think that's why they're fighting against Trump. They want the money flowing in. But it's not just happening in Harvard or Yale. It's happening across country. Like even here, the UC schools, they are bringing in all these foreign students because of money. So the students here in California, they have to find somewhere else to go. So this.
It happens everywhere. I went to boarding school for high school. And even on this tiny little ranch school that I went to that had 300 students total, half the students were from Korea or in China. No joke. I went to boarding school with a lot of Korean students, and it was in the middle of nowhere in the desert in Arizona. And so literally, half of the students who I went to school with were foreigners. They were from China, they were from Korea, and they were from Turkey. And they were from Egypt. There are a lot of, they were all either Asian or Muslim. So, and, this has been, and that was years ago. Look, I finished college 10 years ago. And then before that, right, I was in boarding school for 5 years. And so this has been going on for a very long time.
Exactly. And Trump is the right person to stop this, because I think this is insane. It's going to, and it's not just that they love America. If they love America, that's a different situation. But most of them, a lot of them, and I know a lot of Koreans who can't stand America, are coming over here. And I think they shouldn't. If they hate America so much, why don't they go to China and go to Beijing University rather than Harvard or Yale? And I think it's a tragedy. But I would like to say the presidential election, you are actually correct that it's on a Monday. It falls on a Monday in America, but in Korea time, it's on June 3rd. So it's a Tuesday, but but hopefully the Conservative Party wins. You talked about the vetting process. I thought that this time around it did get better. Like Trump Jr. and Eric Trump they had a more active role in vetting these people, but somehow they get inside these cracks. And you made international headlines when you talked about, weren't you the one who broke that it was Mike Waltz, the former national security advisor, who brought in the Signal chat, who brought in Jeffrey Goldberg from the Atlantic magazine? You broke the news, right?
I didn't break the news, but I'm the one that highlighted the fact that his deputy, Alex Wong, helped him set up the chat. So I did break the part about Alex Wong, then I further exposed Alex Wong as well. So And then, of course, that led to me having an Oval Office meeting with President Trump. And then everybody knows what happened next. Multiple officials from the NSC and the NSA were fired. And right